Viewer discretion advised. Come one, come all. Today, Uncle Ty's lined up a sweet treat for your ear hole. We got some call-ins from a couple folks from the new action-packed comedy grindhouse crime story High on the HOG. Presented by Hicktown Entertainment, High on the HOG stars horror icon Sid Haig, Joel Estevez, and the late great Chicago-born Robert Zarr. That's right, from Maniac Cop, son. Today, I'm joined by the creator, Kevin Lockhart, and his trusty editor, Ben Lewandowski. And as a bonus, I was able to get a call-in interview from actress Fiona Domenica to talk about her experience on the set of HOG. We got a lot to get to, so get strapped in, lock the cruise, grab your favorite recreational substance, and abuse it. Lighters up, Hi and Hello starts in 3, 2, 1. First things first, we're going to sit down with Fiona Domenica. She called in from LA, but she's an actress from across the pond. We're going to get to know her a little bit. Hey, Fiona, you there?
Thanks for having me.
So how did you get involved with this project? When did the script first come across you?
It came across to me, I think about, I'm going to get my years right, I think we're talking about maybe 8.5 years ago, or no, about 8 years ago. Somebody saw my work who knew a producer, and she saw my reel, and then really liked me for the character of Lenore. And I read it, and I was like, oh, I really like the other character. I had another actor read it with me. He's like, no, you should read Lenore again. And then I read Lenore again. I realized she's a little complicated creature. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do this. Basically.
Now, your first time going over the script, were you gravitated to the project? Was it something that you may have not have tried before? It's a very grindhouse-based film. Was that appealing at first, or did that maybe set you apart after first read?
For me, when I get a script, I read it first, and then I really need to read it for a couple of times to get a grasp of it. Because every time you read a script, you always find new interesting elements to a story that you don't necessarily pick up the first time. That's what happened to me. And so, yeah, it was like, I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is different. And I didn't really know a lot about grindhouse before. I mean, growing up in England, I knew about horror films, but I didn't really know much about grindhouse. No. So it wasn't until future that I started to understand. Nor did I know Sid Haig. I had never seen The Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses. I had never seen them. And consequently, I watched those movies, and I started getting a gist of what we're going for.
Absolutely.
You know?
Now, growing up in, you said England, correct?
Yeah.
Now, how long until you came over to America?
I actually got the script, I think, my first year. So I moved 2011, and it was that summer. It was 2012. So yeah, I've been in LA for about 9 years.
Oh wow,
now.
yeah. So that wasn't a transition you made in your youth. That was a little bit later on.
Yeah, for sure. I'd always wanted to live in America and dreamed about it, but it was just always I just thought, how can I do this? Because you have to get a visa, and things kind of happened for me in England that I was able to get the visa from acting jobs there that could get me over here. So yeah, it took a minute. It took a minute and a lot of money.
Oh, I hear you.
It wasn't straightforward.
So when you were coming up, were you a fan of horror films, or was it something that possibly just scared you a little too much to want to venture too deep into the genre?
Do you know, so I've always liked horror, always loved movies, and I knew about I had some really great horror films like The Exorcist, and I'm a huge actual fan of the late 1970s, early 80s horror for me. Those are my favorite types of horror films. And it's not really until later on in my life that I started to really enjoy certain horror films.
I was going to say, focusing on your early childhood, that's when you started acting, correct? You started at 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I had I used to go to a Saturday school, and I remember doing a Saturday school very young, and I was afraid of dogs because I got bitten twice on the ear by a dog, and I was afraid of water because of Jaws, which consequently became one of my biggest favorite movies of all time. But every time Jaws came on, I would vomit. I would projectile vomit as a kid.
Man.
Yeah, my mum used to lose her mind. And so I got offered this commercial, and my mother had to turn it down. And then financially, we just couldn't afford to keep me in acting class because my parents got divorced. And so I kind of took a break for a bit. And then it wasn't until I started to realize, like, my love of movies as I was getting older into my teens, that actually I lived in France for about 6 months on a campsite in the middle of nowhere doing I was a holiday rep. So people go on tour traveling and they take their caravans and they travel to different places. And I was like one of the reps with some other young people. And one guy had a TV and some movies, and I sat down and I watched, oh my God, William Wallace.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. That movie really moved me. And yeah.
That's fantastic. So how does set vibe compare to different genres that you've played in for movies, such as romantic comedies or more serious roles compared to like a weed comedy?
It's obviously a lighter tone. And you're dealing with things like fake blood, or it's a different tone for sure. I also, and a lot of screaming, sorry. There's a film coming out I was in called Gag.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard of this clown in Green Bay that started to scare people, walk around with black balloons, and made like national press, and they made a movie about it. So I'm in like the opening 15 minutes of this movie, and there's a lot of screaming involved. I didn't have a voice for quite a while.
Yeah, it's really interesting though that when I saw Gags was on your IMDb page, I jumped and I was like, oh yeah, check that out. And Halloween as well.
Halloween.
Yeah, it's a fun community to kind of plant roots in, because everybody always wants to work with people that are willing and able and are fun to work with. So when you were on this set, was it just an Aces gig for you? Did you have a fantastic time with the cast and crew?
Really just is lovely going away somewhere, and I was there for like a month, 6 weeks, and you have breakfast with them, you have lunch with them, you have dinner, you have late night talks, it's and then you're going through crazy ass schedule. Like one time we had to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had to scream in the field with the other actor Adam Badron, and Tony Walsh is going, Fiona, just look up and pretend you see an explosion and this has happened and this has happened, and I'm like half asleep and I'm like, yes, go, and I'm screaming, yes, come on. So
a lot of night shoots.
A lot of night shoots, and also like it's an indie film, so it's not like we have millions of dollars. So we're trying to do the best we can on a budget. I love the camaraderie. Everybody just wants to make a good piece of art. A good movie, and everyone loves what they do. They love being a part of it, and I love that.
Absolutely. A good crew, just going in, making a movie and getting out. It's like summer camp to me. So I'm so happy to hear that you had a fantastic experience on this film.
Yeah. And even like I've done something on a much smaller scale. I think we probably had about 25 crew. That's not, that's like, they had a good chunk of people on this set, and everyone just, I actually really looking forward to hopefully coming out to Chicago. I hope they screen this in Chicago and seeing everybody again, because it's been a long time, and there's some great talent on this movie for sure.
Now, where did you guys shoot?
In Galena, Illinois.
Oh, you guys shot in Galena, Illinois, huh?
Yeah.
That's very rural. It's a very rural area compared to Los Angeles.
It is, and because to this Brit, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm on the set of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I hadn't been to Texas, and all I saw was just cornfields and barns, and I was like, oh, this really is great for location. And I remember going to, I think it was a Piggly Wiggly or something like that, and I started talking, and this girl, bless her, she looked at me, and I don't think she ever spoke to a British person, and she didn't understand what I was saying, and it was a strange experience for me, and it was lovely, a lovely interaction, but it was in the summer too. It was lovely.
You're bringing me home to my roots. I grew up on a cornfield about 2 hours west of Chicago, so I'm like, I think we played Galena in basketball. Even it was a very interesting upbringing, being out in the middle of nowhere.
I bet you had a lot of corn on the cob, huh?
You know what? I did, and it was funny earlier when you mentioned Jaws was one of the horror movies that really got you when you were younger. Mine was Children of the Corn, so it was just about a bunch of kids out in corn, and man, oh man, it was almost too real having to go outside at night.
Yeah.
Oh man, I felt like I was living in it.
just such a different world. I mean, I spent a lot of time in North Carolina, and just again being out there, because there's a lot of rural areas. And one of my good friends, who actually is also in the movie, Jesse C. Boyd, his family live in kind of what was a rural part, now is growing. But just the contrast between, it's like, for me, it's every state has its own identity, you know, compared to Los Angeles, Chicago,
Right.
and within it has each pocket has its own identity. If that makes sense, especially as a foreigner. You know,
Absolutely.
But a lot of trees, a lot of grass. I love it. Take me back.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to stretch your legs a little bit, get out of the city, and just have some fresh air to breathe for a minute or two. And especially on a set when you can, you know, go for just a jog around nature for a moment, or you can just get outside and not have the hustle and bustle of the city. You can focus on what you need to focus on before your scene, or, you know, the day before your shoot.
I mean, so quite often on High the Hog, sometimes we would like change up a bit, and, you know, Tony was like, you know, have you got any ideas? We discussed certain scenes, and, you know, some of the dramatic stuff I needed to kind of step away. I needed to go away from the jokes and the fun, and literally be by myself for a second, especially if I had to get into something emotional,
right.
You know?
Speaking of Tony, how was it working with director Tony Wash?
He's awesome. He's super fun. He's just a lovely guy. He's super passionate about what he does. It's his dream. It's his passion. He's ready to get some good attention, you know, and I really hope that High the Hog and the Rake and the other stuff he does, that people start to, you know, recognize him and his work.
Now, you are not just an actress. You also have your own production company, Fandamy Films, correct?
Fandamy Productions? Some fingers and pies, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that a little bit. How's that going?
So I'm early days, basically. Well, it's not early days. I shot my first film called Stingrays in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's a 20-minute short. It's a very dark drama about child abuse with some rock and roll. I actually had Tracy Guns. I don't know if you know him from LA Guns and Guns N' Roses. He actually gave me music to put on the track.
Oh, wow.
To put on the short film. Yeah, because I met him. And he has a child, and I showed him the script, and I talked about it, and he's like, look, let's talk about some music. So that was wonderful. So that was my first flick, and I learned a lot, because, you know, if anybody wants to get into filmmaking, I'd say to anybody, make a short film first before you get into a feature, because you learn so much. And
absolutely.
And then I had a lovely mentor who was the director, who'd also made movies before, Heath Franklin. He taught me a lot. You know, we went through my script, and I learned a lot through him. I helped prepare me for my next project, which is, I wrote a script a few years ago. I'm on my 14th draft now.
Fantastic.
And it's a horror psychological, actually based on a true story, where in England I had a very crazy woman live below me and my ex-partner, and we thought she was murdering somebody. And she wasn't, but the sounds that would come from below were terrifying, and no one else heard her. Honestly, it's hilarious. And I kind of developed this story based upon my encounter with this woman and what happens to you when you don't sleep. So there's no blood and gore, and nobody dies. It's very psychological. And I'm working with Chicago filmmakers Sarah Sharp and Rob Stern, who they were both on High the Hog as well. I kind of built a very great, wonderful relationship with them. I'm just sort of finalizing the script and you know, looking at funding and getting that really going.
Congratulations.
Now. That is a passion project of mine. Thanks. Thanks.
Absolutely. I mean, even
it's not easy, man.
It's not. It's really not. I know too many people in this world who look at a screen and just, you know, maybe get their 4 or 5 seconds of entertainment out of it and flip to the next channel. And it's like, man, all of the work that goes into you just, you know, taking in that 30-second blink to the next channel. So much work that goes into it. And a lot of times when it's a passion project, and like you said, you're on your 14th draft, that takes so much time and effort and patience and drive to keep going with it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On getting that up and off the ground. Can't wait to hear more. When it comes around, we're gonna have to have you back on to talk. I'd love to have you on.
When that baby gets going, I'm gonna be so excited to talk about it. I'm gonna be absolutely. Finally. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll bring some balloons, gender neutral balloons, and I will also bring a Polaroid camera. We're gonna get some pics of it. I can't wait.
Excellent. Yeah.
So how was it working with Sid Haig?
So he was lovely. I didn't know him, like I said beforehand. I didn't know the level of what kind of fan base he had and how people feel about him. I was literally in LA and I just said, I'm working on this project with Sid Haig, and they're like, what? Like literally lost their mind. And then I started obviously watching more of Rob Zombie's work, and then I ended sort of studying him and understood, who he was. And on set, I mean, for me, I don't think about, how many fans you have. It's, for me, it was about
absolutely
creating the moment. And he is my like surrogate dad in this project. He kind of takes me in, have a bit of a wild past, and he looks after me, and it was lovely. We had some good old chats. We talked a lot actually about healthy eating and nutrition, funny enough. So sitting out by the cornfield.
Right.
That's one thing I do remember. Yeah. No, he's just a good guy. And he's been in the industry for a long time. He told me a few stories of some crazy fans, which obviously I cannot divulge, but yeah, no, it was great. It was really wonderful working with him. And yeah, he's just a funny guy. He's like straight, like his humor's straight, but he's funny and super chill, and
Was there any set hijinks along the way? The movie was in production for a good minute. Was there any memorable moments that just had the whole set and crew laughing?
Probably, actually. I just remember the boys. There's a scene in the movie where I'm shooting a gun out the window, and it's a big, tense moment. And I'm British, but in the movie I'm American. So please don't say my accent. I did the best I could. And I think they started laughing because I'm doing this serious scene, and I'm shouting profanity. And maybe a little bit of the English came out, and I've got this gun. And as soon as Tony just said cut, everyone just started laughing. I'm like, boys, what's so funny? And they couldn't help themselves. It was just because they've been around each other for so long. To them, this is the most hilarious thing because I am British. So hearing me losing my shit with this gun. Oops, sorry if I did. No,
you're fine. You're fine. Fuck it. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, that's one of the funniest moments I remember. I think, God, looking back now, yeah, I'm sure there were a few more.
I love it.
Definitely some laughing fits. I know I had some laughing fits. If I have the giggles, sometimes it's hard for me to stop, and I normally get them when I haven't had any sleep. So, trying to be professional and all, but yeah, I think that was about it.
So one more real quick. I know with the big premiere coming up, you've been talking to so many different outlets about this. So give me the elevator pitch. How would you pitch this film?
Gosh, I would say, I wrote this the other day to somebody. I would say High on the Hog. It's got a bit of grindhouse, got grit, it's sexy, got some sauce, a little violent, mixing chicks with guns and a lot of weed. And basically it's a movie of madness. There's even claymation in this movie too. I don't think people quite realize what they're going to get. It's just something very different. And I'm loving that because actually we need to keep churning out new stuff instead of just churning out the same old, or remaking horror films. Let's just bring in some new art,
I love that answer so much. And you're right. We get all of these remakes constantly, and then they don't even have enough time to settle before we get another script to reboot it again.
Makes me mad.
So I am very, very excited to see what all of your hard work has put together. The film High on the Hog, it's going to be premiering on Friday, April 19th.
And we've got 6 days of screenings, which is wonderful. And then I know it's going on video on demand. And I've heard that we'll be having other screenings around the country for sure. Just waiting to announce that for some of Sid's fans to see. Yeah.
Well, that's perfect. And there's going to be a meet and greet at the premiere as well. Are you going to be able to make the premiere?
Yep, I'll be there. Sid Haig is going to be there. Kevin and Tony and Ben, our wonderful editor, he's going to be there. And Jesse C. Boyd, another great actor who's on the brink of stardom. You want to check him out. Adam Badron is going to be there. He's another wonderful actor. He's also in the movie. And Sierra, one of my girls in the movie with me too. So yeah, it should be fun.
Well, heck yeah. I hope you all have a blast. Congratulations. I know it's been a whirlwind project, but it's finally, the finish line is steps away. So congratulations. I'm very happy. I'm very proud of everybody involved. And thank you so much for taking a few moments to chit chat and tell us about the movie a bit. And if you're in Chicago when the movie comes this way, I would love to meet up and get you and do a full episode with you and see how you've been. Okay.
100%. Yes, I'm planning on it. That's lovely, Tyler. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Fiona. You have a great one, and we'll talk to you real soon, okay?
You too. Take care, love.
All right. Bye.
Folks, you want to find out more about Fiona, you can check out her on the High on the Hog IMDb page. That way you can link to all of her past projects, or you can follow her on social media at Fiona Domenica. Next up, I'm sitting down with Kevin Lockhart and Ben Lewandowski, the creator, writer, and editor for High on the Hog. Boys, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
Yeah, I know you guys have probably been so busy over the last few years, and now the finish line is just steps away. So I hope this weekend you guys are able to just, take a deep breath and, okay, we're good. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that's going to happen. I think with everything that we've got going on leading up to the premiere Friday, we're going to be quite busy, as we have been for the last, 11 years or so.
With everything that's been happening in the recent, let's jump back a little bit. With the addition of High on the Hog for both of you, how many projects have you guys been involved with independently and together?
Ben, you take yours first.
I've personally worked on 200 movies over the last, since probably film school. As a professional editor, I find myself in a lot of different projects, but as far as Kevin and I are concerned, technically, when we started working together, this was our first movie, but since then we've done quite a bit. I think I first met Kevin what was it, 2013? Is that right?
I believe.
Yeah. We met at Days of the Dead Schaumburg.
Fantastic con.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And I think the original version of this movie's trailer was being screened for the first time. Yeah, that was November 2013. That's when I met Kevin for the first time. And then, of course, it's just kind of escalated from there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of a rookie to this thing. I'm an older guy, and I didn't quite get into doing anything until about 11 years ago when I had a bunch of buddies of mine that we were sitting around partying one night, and they worked at the Institute of Art in Schaumburg. Taught classes there, and we came up with the brilliant idea of making a movie together. And so I started writing, and this is really my only feature that I have written, produced, and created all on my own. And it all started in 2007.
Now, so with that, Kevin, you didn't do film school, correct?
No, sir, not at all. I was a finance and economics major at Illinois State University, and then went on to get my MBA. And I have worked in local government in one form or another for my whole career.
This is another question that I can kind of aim towards both of you. When it comes to film school, with Grindhouse style film, it was derived more from just grabbing a camera and making a movie. Ben, did film school help or hurt your overall approach to this as an editor? And Kevin, would you say the lack of having a film school background helped you in the process of writing this feature? Did it unlock more for you since you weren't kind of fed structure in a professional setting?
You want to take that one first, Kevin?
Sure. For me, it was easier. The idea was, when I first started writing this thing, I was basically sat downstairs in my family room every night and listened to, Black Oak, Arkansas, and Leonard Skinner and a few other, Southern rock bands, and just started free flowing. And I drew from experience. I grew up in a small farm town. My grandpa raised hogs. I lived on a pig farm for the first 7 or 8 years of my life. The next 6 or 7 years after that, we spent a lot of time on my grandpa's pig farm. Growing up in a small town setting, it was all part of what I am and who I am, and how that all came about. And so I just kind of free flowed, and I figured I would write it all down. I've never done this before. Wrote a script and let it fly. And it was dirty. It was probably uneven. It would not be considered a great script initially when it was written, but I think that kind of fits with the Grindhouse model when you look at what in the beginning I was trying to accomplish, and then we went through a lot of gyrations to actually get there.
Oh, absolutely. Every time when it comes to film script structure, you're going to have to cut your baby, you know? But for a moment, you were talking about growing up on a pig farm. Where are you from originally, man?
I grew up in a little town called Greenview, which is about 20 miles north of Springfield. I always like to tell everybody I graduated fourth in my class. What I don't tell them is that there was only 26 kids in my graduating class. So,
Man, that's exactly my line as well. I'm from a small town of about 200 or so out in rural Western Illinois. So everything you were describing and everything I saw from the trailer as a country boy, man, you nailed it. You nailed it. That was growing up for me was cornfields. So I used to Children of the Corn was, the scariest movie in the world when you were a child living in the corn.
It sure was.
So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for giving a shout out to the small town, man, because this project is it's home for me. So I really I can't wait to finally see the finished product. And Ben, so how would you say film school either helped or hurt you tackling this more grindhouse project?
I went to film school at a very strange time. I graduated in 1998 as the industry was shifting away from motion picture film and it was transitioning into the digital medium. But that being said, when I was in film school, initially I went to be an academic. I wanted to be a professor. And then over time, I just became tempted and spent a lot of time with filmmakers. And I started to not only become impressed with what they were doing, but, you just kind of get almost addicted to the process. So I wanted to figure out a way I can make money while going to school. And no one likes to edit, except for maybe editors, because you spend a lot of time by yourself. You are alone. There's a reason they call it the loneliest office in filmmaking is because you are by yourself. So film school, if it did anything, it taught me resolve and patience. A lot of patience, and that's what you need to put together a feature, because you're going to be on the movie for months, and in the case of this film, years.
Right.
So I'm very glad I went. If I could do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have. I certainly wouldn't say it was a waste of time or a waste of money, because I picked up some very, very strong skill sets. But if I could summarize it in one word, it'd be patience.
And any training in any medium or field is positive, to learn with people who have worked in that industry for years upon years. That's definitely a major advantage, and to be able to work around people who are collectively coming together to create. I mean, in any aspect in life is fantastic to have experience with. Now, real quick, Kevin, when we're talking about how long process can take, was it harder for you to get started or to keep going once you got the script concept? What was more difficult for you, to get it started or to keep going?
Oh, to keep going. To keep going is no question. If I can take a few minutes and just tell you the process that we've gone through and the gyrations that HOG has gone through to get where we are. I started writing this, like I said, in late 2007, early 2008. We put together a group and we were going to make this film for a quote unquote $20,000 budget. It was just going to be some bunch of local jamokes like ourselves trying to get something done. It all fell apart. Then we went, and then 2 years later, one of the original actresses reached out to me that we had cast in the $20,000 budget, went and said, "Hey, I'm in LA. I've met some people. Would you still like to make this movie?" And I said, "Sure." And she goes, "Well, it's going to be $100,000, which again was way under what it ended up being. And because she didn't put into the budget anything for post-production, which, I didn't know anything about then either. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll make it for $100,000. Then we got to actually finish it. So we go through that process, and in that process, and this is the hard part for me, you get more people involved, and the more people you get involved, the more you lose control. When it's a small, tiny indie thing, then you've got control over everything. And there's a lot of people out there that make great stuff that control the product, from writing to directing to editing and everything, and they can control it all.
Now, how often were you able to be on set? Were you there for the whole shoot?
Well, no, that was part of the problem. I mean, not only had the script been re-edited several times and reviewed to make it more what some people thought were going to be a mainline or mainstream sort of film. But during that same time, I was going through an awful lot in my personal life. 2 weeks before we started shooting, or within 2 weeks within shooting, I basically left my house of 27 years. My wife and I started a divorce process. My mom had a couple of mini strokes, and we were concerned because they found aneurysms. We didn't know if she was going to live. My favorite aunt of growing up during the shooting actually died.
Jeez, man. I'm so sorry to hear all that. That's a really rough, that's a really rough point, especially to be starting something, that's supposed to be this big positive force that has been in your life for a few years now. And now everything in your actual reality is just kind of crumbling. Like that's got to definitely put, an individual in a mindset. Would you say that through all of that, you found a drive to go on farther with it? Were you at a really low lull at that point?
Thankfully, we had a lot of good people who, and then we had a major meltdown on set too, that basically was going to stop the production. 5 days into shooting, we had some major issues, which I really can't go into details about, but we had some major issues that occurred that could have stopped it all in its tracks. And like I said, I had not been out on set a lot. I was driving out almost every day from Chicago out to the Galena area. It's like
you guys film out in the Galena area?
Yes, we did. We filmed in a town called Elizabeth. And there's a guy out there named Bob Farster who is one of our executive producers, who's kind of a shaker and mover out in Northwest Illinois and knows everybody, it seems. But the combination of him, Tony Wash, our director, Rob Stern, our cinematographer, and Sid Haig, our illustrious star, all kind of stepped up and brought the crew together and brought the cast together. We brought on a couple of new people, Ace Cabral, who helped as the new AD, and I think that's where the real sense of family for this movie came about. Rather than let this bad experience close down the production, we were able to take this bad experience and turn it into a real sense of camaraderie and family for everybody who was on set. And everybody pulled together, and Sid took on, for the first time, I think, in his career, the role of producer. Sid became much more of a mentor to people and worked with people and took on a lot of that he wouldn't probably have normally done. We extended his time out on set. He was very generous with his time. And, this is the first film ever that Sid Haig has had his name on, where it says Sid Haig in High on the HOG. So
that's very interesting too, because he's got such an illustrious career. I mean, over 70 films that he's been a part of. That's got to warm your heart. You know what I'm saying? To be a part of a project where this horror icon who's been around for so long has put in so much to the film as well. That's huge, man. 'Cause I know you guys said you met at one of the horror cons in Schaumburg. Or was that your first time going to a horror con for either of you?
It was for me.
For Kevin, it was.
Oh, for Kevin. Kevin, that was your first horror con, huh? What did you think? What did you think about walking the floor at a horror convention, especially seeing how the crowd's reaction is when Sid's there and knowing that he was going to be leading this story?
Well, I didn't walk the floor much. My whole reason for going was Sid had become such a good friend. I mean, I hadn't met Sid before the time I picked him up at the airport to drive him out for the shoot. I hadn't met him before, but we became, I think, friends initially or became good business friends initially. And over the years now, every time he's in town and even anywhere in the Midwest and doing a show, I try to go and sit at the table with him. So I sit at the table with him, help him, get the flow of all of his fans coming through. And it was just eye-opening to me. Not only is he such an icon in the industry, but he's such a great guy. People come up and the stuff and the patience that he has and the love that he has and taking free pictures with anybody that wants a picture. Right. I mean, holy cow. This guy's been doing this stuff for decades. It's just amazing. It's amazing to watch, and I was super impressed with him more so than anything else.
What about for you, Ben? What did you think when you heard you were going to be editing this feature starring Sid Haig?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. Well, what's interesting is I've been a Haig fan since I saw him first on a Dukes of Hazzard episode, 1982.
Deep
So
cut.
long before
Ben coming with the deep cut, man.
Oh yeah, trust me, I know his filmography quite well. I was a fan of Haig long before he put on the clown makeup. I knew right away that we had something special on our hands. Of course, I hadn't started cutting yet, so I had no idea what I was in for. But once you've got Sid on a movie, all you really need to do is just work around him. You know, he's so larger than life. The rest of the film, honestly, was fairly simple. I know that sounds ridiculous, especially when you see the movie, but Kevin's probably rolling his eyes. He's like, "Yeah, simple, my ass."
Right.
The price tag wasn't simple. That's for certain.
Hey, let me interrupt Ben for a second and tell you a little bit of the history here, because when we shot that film initially, like I said, I had given up a lot of the control of this thing, and that's my fault. I mean, the reason is it got so big so fast, and I've managed people all my life, but I've never managed anything like managing creative people. I mean, it's a whole different realm of management. So all of this stuff, I mean, all these people were getting involved and all these people were doing it. And I was just happy getting people fed and contracts signed and, getting through the process. The product that we came out of this shooting with in 2012, we had a different editor and we had a different film. And that initial film, I shopped around to distribution companies and shopped around to film festivals. And we were pretty much out and out rejected. And part of it is because no one knew where to slot this film. It was kind of a comedy, drama, crime with a little thriller in it, and all these different genres, and no one could slot it. And I stepped back from it, and after we had gone through this process, and I'm like, guys, this is my fault. I wanted to make a grindhouse film from the start. It turned into something different. And you know what? We're done. I'm pulling it back. So we're done. It's not going to get released. I'm just not going to do this. I need to think about this. And then Ben came along, and I think that Ben, and you can correct me, Ben, if I'm wrong, but I think Ben had a relationship with Tony and Rob through some other projects. And Ben showed up at my house, or Ben refreshed my memory on this one a few days ago, at least when we were talking about some things. He showed up at my house one night after going to some other film festival and just sat in my garage and basically pitched his ideas for recreating HOG. And so I was intrigued. Ben and I spent probably 100 hours on the phone, just talking and talking and talking about what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And here's my idea. And I wanted this to be this dirty, crazy grindhouse thing. Nobody else wanted to do it, meaning nobody in terms of the other writers as we went through this process and the people who tried to help out. Initially, they tried to smooth it out because it was just too crazy. So, and they wanted to make sure the actors and everybody bought into it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But how do we turn it back into this so that at least we can find a marketing niche for this?
Right. Now, Ben, was this project similar to your style, or did you have to readjust your usual style to fit the film's tone?
No, not at all. HOG is right up my alley. Here's an interesting thing. This is going to sound awfully pretentious, but I honestly don't really consider myself a filmmaker or a film editor. I honestly consider myself really more of a painter, and a movie is basically just my canvas, and my NLE, my editing software, is my paintbrush, which is why when you see anything I do, I like to put stuff onto stuff. It looks like a painting. HOG is a very, very good representation of that. I always approach movies, and this is because I've been in independent cinema my entire life, as experimental. Everything's experimental. Regardless if I was on a $50 million studio movie or a $5,000 short film.
Right.
Which, by the way, I navigate to back and forth constantly between shorts. And,
absolutely, absolutely. That's the freelancer's game, man. Like you're gonna be tossed into every which and way. So, first off, once again, congratulations on landing this job and being able to collaborate with these people. One of the things, Kevin, that I've learned is collaboration is such a key to a successful production. And I'm sure you're no stranger to that thought now after everything that this project has gone through, and everything, every iteration and every new draft and every major plot twist or key that might have to be altered. When you wrote the film, did you have a budget in mind? You said originally you had an idea to do it for around 20 grand, but once you found out that it was going to be significantly larger, and did you then go back into it and write for a larger budget, or did you try to keep it still to as low budget as possible?
To be honest with you, I've been in budgeting and financing all of my professional career, but I had never done anything like making a movie. So I had no clue what it took to get things done in post-production. Titling, huh? What do you mean? The editing, the coloring, the sound mixing, the music. Yeah, I knew about the music, but I didn't know all the pieces that went into this thing. So it was impossible for me to know what it was going to take. Now, that being said, I mean, when initially I was told it would be $100,000, I wasn't told it would be $100,000 to finish the movie. I was told it would be $100,000. They said $100,000 to make the movie. Well, when you look at it, that was $100,000 to shoot it, is what it ended up being. In most cases, you would say another $100,000 for post-production. Now, if you're going to be honest with yourself, you should have comparable budgets for production and post-production. The issue is when you make it again, when you start all over again, and we reshot several scenes and added things in with Ellie Church in 2016, when she became our DJ to help tell the story better, when we added in more nudity and gore and craziness into the film,
flared it
to
up,
help tell the story. Yeah, I mean, it of course, now you're jacking up now you're starting all over again. You spend another $50,000 or $100,000, which we didn't spend that much, I don't think, on shooting, but we probably spent another $100,000 or $150,000 in post-production again, trying to get everything done we needed to do. So no, the short answer is no, I had no clue. And no, I didn't adjust the script at that point to change anything. We'd already shot in 2012. We took the footage that Ben took the footage that we had in 2012, did a great presentation to myself, Tony Wash, our director, and Rob Stern, our cinematographer, to basically sell the concept of how this film is going to look under the new version, and then what's it going to take to get to that new version. And
yeah, you remember that? I pitched that in Jim's living room with a bunch of Post-it notes on a giant mat board, and I said, "All right, look, here's the movie. I have it in my head. I figured it out." And of course, Kevin got it kind of right away. Kevin figured it out right away. He's like, "All right, you're just gonna go crazy. I'll support that."
Yeah, and sometimes that's what it takes, though. Sometimes you need to look at the map from a different angle to see the actual route. I mean, that's just something that comes along with making anything, I would imagine. It's all part of just getting the story told. Now that you've seen the film, Kevin, how do you feel about your movie, man?
Oh, I think it's amazing. Again, I'm one of those people that I'll take full blame if people hate it, but I'm going to give the credit to everybody else if they love it. No one could have, I don't think anyone ever has, and I don't think anyone could edit this movie the way that Ben did. I mean, it is so batshit crazy with the cuts and the edits and the stuff that's hidden and inserted in throughout this movie, that if you are a true film fan and you have a lot of patience and a lot of time on your hands, and maybe you're sitting around, smoking all night, and you want to watch this movie 5 times and stop it in different intervals throughout the movie, you're going to see different things every single time you stop it.
You're speaking my language. Ben, real quick, my friend, when you were, in that living room and you were doing your pitch and you were trying to do your part to help out as best as you could, now that you have all the footage and you're in the editing room, was there pressure? Was there any moments of obstacles that you had to overcome, whether it was due to any kind of, file corruptions or crashes. You know, a film of this magnitude, that's going to take a lot of computing power, man. Was there any issues along the way?
Oh yeah, constantly. But you're going to get that on.
He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get that on. You're going to get that on a 2.5-minute music video. So yeah, we had that constantly. But the nice thing is, editorially speaking, it was a dream come true because Kevin said, "Look, just make the movie better and get it closer to what I wanted." I literally had free reign. Kevin never, ever, ever, not once, shot an idea down. And I had some batshit ideas, but for the most part, it was a dream come true for an editor because sometimes I'm boxed into a corner. I'll have ideas, they're shot down, but Kevin was extremely supportive. And I would say for the most part, 99% of the time, we were thinking with the same brain in terms of how to rebuild the movie, how to sculpt it into something that audiences were gonna really enjoy, especially the stoner demographic. Stoner demographic is going to love it.
I hear we're in for a good treat. That's what the word on the street is, my friends. So I personally cannot wait to see this flick. And also, guys, congratulations, because it sounds like, you know, you had all these obstacles and these hurdles, but you were able to overcome. You got the film made, and you got to experience a fantastic collaboration in filmmaking, especially in the more grindhouse horror genre area of this big old world of cinema. There's really tight-knit groups that seem to bring each other back for projects. Now that you guys have gone through the trenches together, do you see another collaboration in the future? Have you guys already talked about, maybe off to the side, what might be a fun new project to venture onto after this one has done its run?
I'll let Kevin take that one.
We talk a lot. Like I said, we spoke hundreds of hours just getting through some of the concepts and the ideas for HOG. We've spent probably another 100 hours now talking about other projects and things. I've written 2 new scripts as of right now. One, they're not complete, but one is basically kind of a sequel to HOG, and the other one is more of a post-apocalyptic ride into Grindhouse. So we have talked about it. I would love to have the opportunity to work with Ben again on these. I'm sure we will be working together again very soon after this project is out there. So.
Now, once again, for the folks at home, what was the timeline from the initial thought to now we're on set to now the film has been shot to now we're editing to here? Like, what are the bigger chunks of that breakup?
Let me give you a quick timeline. 2008, I wrote it. 2009, we cast it to make a new one, and in 2009 it stopped. In 2011, it was resurrected. We shot it in 2012. It was edited and completed by 2014, I believe. It died on the vine in 2014. In 2015, it was resurrected again, with Ben and I starting to talk about what we needed to do. In 2016, we shot more scenes with Tony and Rob and bringing in Ellie and did a whole bunch of other extra things that we put in 2016. And since 2016, basically until 2000, what was it, Ben? Last summer, end of summer last summer, when we got distribution from Indican Pictures, we've been working on it and refining the film. So it was done basically, we had it completed last spring, summer. So that's been the process for us.
And knowing all that, if you could go back and have a chat with yourself before you ventured off into this roller coaster, what would the advice be to yourself?
Oh, if the next time I do this, I'm going to be a lot smarter. I'm 10 times smarter now than what I was back then, at least in making films.
Always.
I mean, we had a great cast, crew, all of that stuff. The problem is that I didn't keep my vision involved in it the whole time. So I have to be involved in it at every step of the way. If you want what you want to make to come out at the end on the film, you have to be involved directly in all aspects of it. I'm not saying, and I think Ben said it already, I'm going to stand over your shoulder and you need to edit this here and put this here or that. No, I don't mean that, but you need to be involved in the sound and the music and the mixing and the edit, and just give your approval and review and do all of that stuff, which I've learned that that's what it takes to make what you want to make.
That's fine advice, man. That's sage advice. Now, I have a quick question for Ben. When you get angry at a movie, what sets you off? Like, are there common qualities in cinema today that you dislike from an editor's eye? And is there anything that you do or you try to subvert or avoid?
My biggest pet peeve, I really only have one. Don't be boring. Don't make a boring movie. Make it fun. And that's what HOG is. HOG is not the recreation of the wheel, but it is a lot of fucking fun. Oh shit, am I not?
No, you're fucking cool, dude. Don't sweat it, man. We're talking about High on the Hog here, man. I'm sure it's not a PG-13 flick.
I don't care what your movie is. As long as it's fun, as long as it's fun and it's not dull, you got me, man. Some of my favorite movies are fucking trash. And you know why? Because they're fun.
I agree wholeheartedly, man.
I venture to say, editorially speaking, if you can introduce an editorial scheme, or even if it's riddled with gimmicks, as long as it's fresh and innovative and original, which I guarantee you HOG is, you've got my support.
You got my ticket too, man. Now, guys, one more thing before we wrap this up. We get noticed all the time because of our successes, but we create them on the backs of our failures. We learn best from experiences where it doesn't always work out. And yet we still only discuss, the successes and not the failures. And I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to really get to hear the story of this film, because for some people listening, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's going to hear this who has tried and failed before. And maybe they never got back up from it, and maybe they just stayed down on the mat. And it's really refreshing to hear a story about a project where people were so down from the start just to have fun with their friends and make a movie, and not think about it so much in the aspect of finances or profit, but just the wholehearted fun of, the kids running the camp and cutting loose and making a fun flick. So it's so refreshing to hear, a story of triumph, especially in the grindhouse cinema, because God damn it, we need it. I know we have these big Hollywood flicks that come out on schedule. You know what I'm saying? We all have our regularly scheduled Hollywood blockbusters all year long, but it's so nice to find just a gem. And I think that's a big deal with the streaming services these days. If you get the chance to get films out on streaming devices, there's more chance that it's going to come across the eye than something that's going to play in theaters, honestly. There's 5 to 8 movies that come out a week or something like that, I'm sure, or every 2 weeks nowadays. Indie cult classic films, they're easier to find with these streaming services. So are you guys planning on doing any streaming services after the initial premiere? Is there going to be digital downloads where people can find the flick? What's going to be the easiest route after you guys premiere it for folks at home to find this movie? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, a couple things if I can. First of all, if you could follow us if on Instagram, High on the Hog, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. We have our own website, highonthehogthemovie.com. It's going to be easier to find out what's happening. Our distributor has been moving forward with new ideas. We know if you go and look on the sites now, you'll see High on the Hog is listed on Fandango. It's listed on Google Play, and you can pre-purchase it, or whatever you call that, on iTunes right now. It's out there. It's going to be out there streaming. I don't know when the streaming of the film will be available on these sites, but it is going to be there. And then Ben and I are working very closely right now with Jim Peterson, who's our DT, to try to get the Blu-ray done, and our good buddy Steve Verdino, who's helping us with all this stuff, to get the Blu-ray done. And we're planning on having a Blu-ray available sometime in late May, that for the fans and for people who like this sort of stuff. There's going to be a lot of cool behind the scenes. We've got a couple of where we talk about the movie, where we watch and talk about the movie. We got a couple of behind the scenes interviews sort of things and some goofy things that we're putting in there. So that's going to be the key for us. I mean, we really, really like the support. We've had a lot of people follow us. We've had a lot of people be patient. And I, again, appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. This has been going on a long time and a lot of stops and starts. And I know people have been frustrated with us at times, but blame me. It's my fault. I want to get this right. And I think we have it right.
Hey, man.
You want to tell everybody where the Blu-ray debut is supposed to be, or do you not want to say that yet?
Well, we don't know exactly for sure if that's happening. So there's a good chance. What I'll say is there's a good chance that the Blu-ray will be available in Las Vegas for a show that Sid is doing at the beginning at Days of the Dead in Las Vegas in June.
Oh shit, Vegas. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time out today to sit with me and discuss the movie. Personally, I can't wait. Are you guys going to be taking it on like an American tour while doing its release dates after the premiere?
We're going to try to go to a few cons and have some tables and maybe get it to show in a few other places. I did forget to say one other place. We are going to be at Crypticon in Kansas City for Sid's 80th birthday in the weekend of July 13th. So we're going to be there as well.
Oh man,
80.
That's going to be a fun day.
That's
and
crazy.
He's still kicking ass. That just shows you, kids.
Yep, he's still kicking ass.
Get it in there. So you guys got a big premiere this Friday. Are you guys going to be able to make it down there for it?
Oh yeah.
We're heading out Thursday.
The premiere this Friday, April 19th. It's going to be at the Arena Cine Lodge in Hollywood. That's 6464 Sunset Boulevard. Tickets are still available. There's going to be a meet and greet at the event, and it's going to be running for a week. So get your tickets, folks. Contact highonthehogthemovie.com for more information. And gents, thank you again for sitting back and talking to me and shooting shit. And I really
thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
And if you guys are coming around for Chicago, I would love to come out and check out the film and get to talk to you guys in person. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
And check out High in the Hog once again at High in the Hog the movie. Hashtag High in the Hog the movie. Don't forget at High and Hello. Hashtag High and Hello. Check us out on Instagram as well as High in the Hog movie. They're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Pre-order on iTunes. Thanks everybody. Have a good one. All right. And we're out, guys. Cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
Hey, folks, I hope you had a blast. Thank you to Fiona Domenica. Thank you to Kevin Lockhart. Thank you to Ben Lewandowski. Thank you to High on the Hog. Thank you for fucking persisting, guys, and for getting this flick made this Friday, April 19th at 6464 Sunset. There's going to be a meet and greet with Sid and Joel and Fiona and Kevin, and Ben said he's going to be there too, so everyone you know on this project's going to be there, son. Get on out there. Director Tony Wash will be there. Tickets are on sale. Just go to highonthehogmovie.com. I believe the premiere starts around 9:30. Go out, get some dinner, get dressed up, head on down, watch some fucking Grindhouse, man. Keep indie cinema alive. Fuck all these big time flicks, man. We need to support the little man here because the little man one day is the big man. Or woman, or them. You never fucking know.
Oh, señorita, llama a la policía. Bebida o tequila, loco de alegría. Oh, señorita, policía, wunderbar.